If you are new to macros and VBA, this lesson is for you. Basically, macros are very useful to automate repetitive tasks that you have in Excel. So let's do something simple and learn how to record a macro and use relative and absolute references to fix our code and get the result that we want. So here you don't need to know nearly anything about VBA. Let me explain to you the challenge. I have here some data, and in the second sheet I have similar data, so similar structure but different names, different values, and then I want to copy paste both and put them in this sheet. Now the challenge is the following. Here I don't know how many lines I will have. So here I have 3, which means when I copy paste those 3 lines, the next data set has to start from this line, right? So here, for example, John has to come and start from row 5. So how to do this? First, we're going to record macros using absolute and relative references, understand the difference, and then know how to use it to get our final result. So let's start. First of all, some hygiene factors. To record a macro, you have this icon here. If you don't have it, you can just right click here and click on macro recording. The second thing is you have this developer tab. If you don't have it, right click anywhere that is empty, customize the ribbon, and then tick this developer thing. So now we have this. You have here something called relative references. It's not selected, so now we're starting with absolute references, and we're going to record the macro. So we start at B2, we click, we get macro name, etc. We say OK, and we can see it here. How to see this window? It is very simple. If you click on Visual Basic, here the window will appear. So first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to go to cell A2. So you can see range A2.select. Then I'm going to do control. I'm going to go down. So you have selection.and excel down.select, which means I went down. It's writing the code for me, easy. And then with the arrow, I'm going to do one more down. So now I have range A5.select. Let's stop the macro by clicking here, and we have our code. Let's do the same, but with relative referencing. So I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to go record another macro. I say, okay, it's here. We're going to go one cell like this. So now you see the code is different. We have active cell.offset 0 minus 1, range A1. Let me explain to you this. Offset means I'm moving cells. First, I'm going to move rows and then columns. Rows, when I went from B2 to A2, I didn't move, right? So this is why I have 0 row. And then for columns, I went from this column to this column. So I went one column back, right? So that's -1. And then this is something extra. It's just telling me that I have only one cell. So if I had more than one cells, this will be different. It's not that useful, but it's okay. Then we're going to do the same. Control Shift down. Okay. We have the same code coming. And then with the arrow, we go one down. So as you can see here, I don't have this. I have something different. I have active cell.offset. Again, one row, 0 columns, and then we select. Let's stop our macro. Let's remove this relative referencing, and let's try to test this on different scenarios. The problem with this one is the following. Let's assume that I have the same data. I'm just going to copy paste it, and I start here. If I want to run this macro, I can click here and click on the run button. If you see, I ended up at A5. I didn't end up at the bottom, right? Which is a problem. Whereas if I try the second macro and I start here, then I go and I run it, I end up in A8, which is the right place. So it seems that this solves the problem, but it doesn't. Because if I start, for example, here, and I go and I run this macro, I get an error. Why did I get an error? Because it executed the code and went to the bottom of my sheet. So if I go up again, again, if I come here, I go and I press run, I get another error. Why? Because if I click on debug, I'm going one column before and I don't have any column before, so that's a problem. So what's the solution then? The solution is basically to use both a relative and an absolute reference. So for example, when we start, we need to be at A2, then we need to go down, then we use the relative reference to go one cell down. So let me show you how it works. If I go here, I'm gonna just click on this to reset my macro and record another macro. We click, we have macro 13, we say okay, we go here, then we go control down, we click on relative reference, and then we go one down. Then we stop the macro. Let's try it. Let's remove now data, and let's put the cursor anywhere, and we say play, then we get the right place. If I add some data, again, I'm going to put the cursor anywhere, I click, I get to the right place. Why? Because we start at A2, which is fixed, we go down, and then using relative reference, we go one down, which is what I want. So now I'm going to remove all this, and we're going to try to do the macro that will copy paste everything in the other sheet. So let's start. We have first absolute reference. So we're going to click record. We say okay. First of all, we come here, then we do Control, Shift, arrow down, arrow to the right. So this is how we want the data to come. Don't do this. Don't do this, because this will create you problem. If you had one more line, E5, it's not gonna work. So I'm just gonna delete this. And then after doing this, I'm gonna do copy. So I can come here, Control C, you see we have copy. We go to the final sheet, we go here, then we do Control V, then we go to department 2, again, we start here, we do Control Shift, arrow down, arrow right to select the data, Control C, then we want to paste it, which is the key thing. So I'm using still absolute reference. I go to A2, Control down, then I turn on relative reference, I go one down, so now we have this offset that comes. Let me turn it off, let me paste the data, and then I'm just gonna click here to go to the top of the data set, and then I say and macro. So now if we delete this data, and let's just play with it, let's assume that here we have double the data. Will it come double or not? Let's see. So we just come here, we run the code, and as you can see, now all the data comes. See, I have 2 times this data, and then I have my other lines coming from department 2. So now to run the code, I could add a button, which you can find on the developer tab, here insert. I could also add any shape or any icon and then link it to this code. So I'm gonna now use icon just to be fancy. I'm gonna say, for example, data. Let's assume that this is my data. I say, okay, I insert it, it's here. Then I can right click on it, assign macro, macro 14, okay. Now, if I delete the data here, I click, you can see that the data comes just by clicking on this. So please let me know in the comment section some of the repetitive tasks that you have, so we can try to make some other videos and show you how to automate them using macros. And obviously, I'm gonna put a link in the description so you can download this workbook.